welcome everybody to this first nominee panel, Making Science Meaningful for Wider Audiences. Welcome especially to the panelists whom I will introduce in a minute. In the museum landscape, as well as in museological discourse, there has been a lot of development in recent years regarding museums focusing on science and scientific practice in the broader sense. They increasingly consider themselves not so much as spaces of transferring knowledge, of mediating in the more classical sense, but as spaces for public engagement, as spaces of exchange and of empowering people. They are often in that tightly connected to local audiences, while being part of larger scholarly scientific networks, often international scholarly networks. And all of the 4 museums on this podium, I think, represent this in very different but also very intriguing ways. It is a great chance, therefore, to bring these 4 museums together on one panel. And this is not despite of, but because of the differences there are regarding national or regional contexts, the specific genre or disciplinary background, the institutional affiliation, be it part of a university or part of a national museum union. May I just briefly name the panelists? To the left of myself is Maike Schlegel from the Nürnberg, Deutsches Museum Nürnberg. Then we have Lenka Pospisilova from the John Amos Comenius Museum. She's a comeniologist, a term that I learned just now. We have David Lordkipanidze, we have Marian Reisma, the director of the Tartu University. Now the micro, yes. And David Lordkipanidze, he was the director of the National Museum Union Georgia and also the director of the Vani Archaeological Museum. Yes, please, a round of applause. Before I will hand over to the first museum, which will be Marian Reisma, I was just going to explain really briefly how we have thought about the panels to work. So every museum will get about 7 minutes, that's quite a strict number, to present their museum, possibly address some questions, challenges, followed by 1 or 2 questions, if there are any on my side, and then it's the next museum's turn. And that will leave us with a good 20-25 minutes of mutual discussion with some questions that have come up that I have prepared. As this is the first panel, we will try how this works for the rest of the panels, and there's a lot of weight on our shoulders here. So may I hand over the set to Marian from the Tartu University Museum.
Dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure to be here and to start our Eurovision Museum contest and to be the first ones. My name is Marian Reisma. And my name is and present University of Tartu Museum. Do you hear me? Yeah? Yes. Okay, because it's very weird sound actually for me. Me? Yeah, okay. So, we present University of Tartu Museum. Okay, I have to speak here because translator can't hear me, but now she hears me? Yeah? Okay, let's try this way. The first one is very good to be because everybody else can have a better position then. But now we can start, yeah? So, we like to present University of Tartu Museum, where you find the soul of Estonia. It is former medieval cathedral telling the story of the museum, of the university, and its role in Estonian identity. Without university, there would be no Estonia as we know it today. So, how to learn, how to gain the knowledge, together with scientific thought and identity building, these are the key words, key factors creating better today.
So to give a little backstory, Estonia is a country in the northern part of Europe. We are small in population, only 1.3 million, but rich with museums, so we can say they're almost everywhere. We come from the south of Estonia, where EMYA was held last year, so maybe some of you were there. Tartu is characterized by two things. It has the river EMYA flowing through it, by which it's oftentimes called Athens of River EMYA, and then it has Toomemägi Hill, where we are situated at, which is the heart of both the historic city as well as the university campus. So I'm going to give a short introduction on what we wanted for this change to be. We wanted to bring life. We wanted to create a meaningful, attractive, yet informative space, both inside and also outside the museum walls. As I said, we are on Toomemägi Hill, so the environment surrounding the museum is very important to us. Also, we wanted to create meaning, and for this we needed to work with target groups so they could feel represented and feel touched by the stories we tell. Impact is a difficult thing to achieve. We are all about critical awareness, but at the same time, we wanted people to know that simplicity is the key. You don't have to speak in a difficult manner to impact people. You can do the same with small but heartfelt stories. And then magic, which is really important to us, because you got to have a little bit of fun, and you got to create like an experience that you could never experience anywhere else. So we created a journey that would bring highlights to not only one or two specific themes or objects, but would surprise you along the way and increase your curiosity.
So, we will continue with some key principles, what we had. First of all, we wanted to be smart but economically reasonable, because I think this is one of the key words for today's museum. And also, for us, the ecological sustainability was extremely important. For example, we used very much old furniture and brought back to the historic space. But also we used tens of thousands of mainly written-off books, which we reused. Secondly, we connected the historical environment into the contemporary museological approach into coherent and holistic experience. Third, of course, it's about learning environment, like already Karolina mentioned. We all know that we are all different learners. Some of us like to see or look to the objects. Some of us want to do something. Some of us are more emotional. The others are more rational. So we created the whole museum based on these different types of learners. So it's really structured. It's based on a very strong constructivist museological theory. But for people, it's not visible. They just enjoy their experience. And like Karolina said, it's all about simplicity. For example, I have an egg, the symbol of a world. And we wanted to use the egg to describe the essence of the university and to make it very, very simple. So we took 4 professors from 4 different faculties, and they described what is an egg. So with this kind of very simple things, we actually can talk about very profound things. What is the essence of the university? It's in diversity, and so is the museum. Museum and university are quite similar, as we know. At last, all exhibition is based on research. We carried out a stakeholders and visitors mapping study. And of course, we used very much target groups making the exhibition. And now you can see a small movie about our exhibition. So you can really see what's inside. It's a medieval cathedral, the biggest one in Estonia, but it has actually very many different historical layers. And it has been a university library for almost 200 years. So this is the reason why we wanted to recreate the smell of the university library there, which was restored out some decades ago. So we didn't create a special place for children or children's area, but there are places for children everywhere. So idea was to create a social, or like we like to say, democratic space for different generations to meet and to have this eye-to-eye contact.
As Marianne already said, we asked people to participate in creating the exhibition as well. For example, we asked student organizations, which are quite plenty of them in Estonia. So these drawers are all filled by them, what they described as their own organization, what they feel is valuable to them, and what they would like for everyone to know about their organization. This is an example of the biggest participation project with the scientists of the university that we have done. It's a homage to old portrait galleries where every scientist had to bring an object from the university's collection to bring together contemporary science and history. And the university treasury, designed like a cave full of wealth, is focused on simple yet powerful stories tied together with objects from our collections. Another key aspect, of course, is education and bringing children closer to science, making them feel joyed by seeing some experiments or learning something new. And that has carried on to our exhibitions as well. The Cathedral's Chamber of Mysteries is all about asking questions, not really giving answers because we don't always know the answers, but letting them explore things playfully and be a part of creating their own narrative or exploring how we could view history. And then we have a character called the Crazy Scientist. Here he is. He often ventures out to our outdoor spaces as well. During our outdoor programs, for example, we have now launched a festival that is all about engaging the public in discussions about the space of Toomemägi Hill. Lastly, what we have next. Tartu is going to be the European Capital of Culture next year. I hope we see you all there. So an example of what we are going to do is a cathedral lighting project where we give a new layer of narrative to the cathedral through light. But also we will have an installation outdoors that brings together scientists, museologists, children, and artists, and many more.
Okay. And to conclude, we wanted really to make a good museum. And how to make a good museum? We all know Kenneth Hudson knows the answer. And what Kenneth Hudson said, a good museum has charm and cheers. As you saw, we have the charm. We are a so charming museum. So we added very many cheers, and here we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe just one question, Carolina and Marianne, because I'm just so curious, and I can imagine many in the audience are as well. You have one very successful program, the Crazy Scientist program. What do the scientists of the university think about this? How have they been possibly co-developing, or what is the response?
So there are very different opinions about the crazy scientist. Of course, children love this character because it introduces the science to the smallest children. But scientists sometimes criticize it because it's empowering this stereotype, maybe. Stereotype that crazy scientist is too crazy, you know, too mad, or he's a man and making some strange things. So they want a different character for the scientist. But while it was made together with the target group, together with children, and children love really this character, then we have continued this approach until today.
And maybe connected to that, as a university museum, you represent the university as a whole with all different also status groups, professors, lecturers, students, postdocs. How do you involve them also in the program making, in the exhibition making?
It differs. It differs what kind of events or exhibitions we do, and but of course they are very closely connected. Like for example, Carolina told about this project, 100 Faces of the university. It was a very tight cooperation. It was participation project because all the professors and scientists had to come to the museum, select their object, and now they are part of our identity story of the university. So they are participating in very many different ways. I think this is for the University Museum very, very important. What is challenging, and even more challenging, is how to get participating and do something together with students. Right. I think it's more complicated than doing something together with scientists.
With the crazy scientists. Yes. I think this is a topic we will touch upon in the panel, because I'm sure the others can also speak to that. Thank you both so much. And so it's David Lord Kipanidze's turn to talk about the Vani Archaeological Museum.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, well. So I am David Lord Kipanidze. I am representing Georgian National Museum. Georgian National Museum is... Why it's not working? It started, okay. Georgian National Museum, on one hand, it's a legal entity, official institution with different museums and centers, which we call, the type of these museums are site museums. It's in, okay.
It works in this way. But you can enjoy beautiful images behind me, so it will turn more. So this museum, Vani Museum, is another type museum which we developed. It's a site museum. And it's in Vani, which is a small town in western Georgia. And I was asking how about the population of Vani, and I will not tell. We have more visitors in 2 weeks than all population in Vani, this place. What it means that we can develop important storytelling place in somewhere, in small place, may I say. And what's about this museum? This museum has a strong background, started from ancient Greeks. Everybody knows story, Golden Fleece, Jason, Argonauts, but not many people know that it happened in Georgia. And archaeologists tried, and I think they managed to prove that this myth is a reality. So it's a big advantage to have this kind of background. I imagine the Greek actors like Homer or Strabon had not less influence than today's Facebook, CNN, right? So all this story was known all over the world since long time, and now it attracts attention. But how to develop in this place the museum which can answer in different questions, but simultaneously to be multifunctional hub or the center with different approaches. The museum itself presents archaeological remains, and when the topic today is the science and connections, of course, main here is the archaeology. Archaeology and related sciences. In this case, it's more humanities and the story of the ancient mythology, story of Greek colonization. The main point is that during the big Greek colonization, you have a place called Kolchis, and Kolchis has own identity, and which is well connected with both with the Greeks culture and as well as with Oriental culture. And we are presenting it through objects and describing, and I will not go details, using all modern technology. So this is one hand important scientific research. But let's look in a wider way that what is today's science, right? What is today's heritage science? Today's heritage science is not just humanities, right? You need how to integrate in these natural sciences. And this place is, I think, one of the best example how you can keep collections which in future can be very important objects for this collection-based science, and even for different fields like human genomes, right? Maybe you know that last year Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology went to paleogenetics, who is using material which comes from the museum. So this is a perspective that every object in this museum can be in future very important science storyteller or for big science. So developing this kind of research around the site, developing also paleobotanical research, also study of paleoeconomy and so on. So this is an approach, and then translating in public programs, to make in public programs opportunity for thinking how you can connect natural sciences and humanities. Plus developed as this center for the attraction for international programs, and we already have for both PhD and MA, and have a place where you can give a credit for universities in different fields. So one place can be used for different purposes, particularly for connecting to the society, for inspiration. When today Mr. Ramonada mentioned word curiosity, right? For me, it's like music. I'm studying human evolution, and in human evolution, developing curiosity is one of the reasons of conquering new territories. This is exactly the role of this museum, to connect, develop curiosity with different tools, and also find a way to develop sense of exploration, because this story of Argonauts is an exploration generally. And there was a very good example in 80s. One Irish writer did special experimental trip from a voyage, let's say, from Greek to Colchis, showing that in Mycenaean time it was possible. These kind of examples we try to put on table in the programs, plus programs like experiments in archaeology. So having, in this case, dialogue, using what is today's science. Without real science, you couldn't develop society, right? And if we will talk on big questions like democracy, in this case, this this is also part of it. So to make this importance of this place and opportunities and inspirations, here is another big opportunity to develop it with a connection with poetry. 10 kilometers from exactly this place is the birthplace of very famous Georgian poet, Galaktion Tabidze. Another program is how to connect it. So how to connect together, let's say, humanities, natural sciences, and art. So I think even small pieces and small places in big world could be places where you can develop, may I say, main values of humanities, and also to be place where studying big questions of science. And you are transmitting it. So this museum, for us, all of us, is a dialogue. It's a place of dialogue from different parts. Also is an opportunity to Georgian public tell about identity, and its identity, which one hand is interesting and developing own identity. You see, we have our Christian identity based on the classical period, but same time it's a story of study early periods of the Europe. So all integrated it, and plus opportunity to be part of big international networks. You see, I will finish, and last year we had exhibition with where Vani and Pompeii was together, and this year we have another this type of exhibition plan. So this is a place, and this museum is a place where we try to be connected. And I don't know how efficient it is, but at least it's a try. And we will try our best that this type of meeting places, we will have many in our country. Thank you.
It doesn't seem so. Well, okay.
You have a question?
It's the first panel is always, having to solve some technical issues. Thank you so much for your presentation, and I think it became apparent that you are both involved deeply in the scholarly community of archaeologists globally, basically, and Vani has been an important site and still is internationally. And at the same time, you're doing a tremendous job of involving local communities, disenfranchised communities. You've been touching on this a little bit. Could you maybe say a little more how does it work to get in such a museum, to get the local community involved and also get a sense of ownership? Because that's what I feel they have developed.
But I think it's must. I don't think any museum is not doing this, right? Working with local communities, with local teachers, right? And I think in this case, it's very easy. See, it's very easy. As I told you, there are very small population which has guests, many of them, and maybe, as I told you, in a week they have triple of the population. So it's easy in this case. But what is our main goal always? To develop this knowledge, the knowledge and way of thinking, you see. And these local kids are the same position, excuse me, but it can be in Western country, right? They should feel it. They should feel that they have same starting position from anybody in the world, and how their own heritage can be useful for them. We try to develop, number one for us is developing literacy. And literacy is used very often just eco-literacy. But the point is it should develop biocultural literacy, both nature and culture. And this is main message, may I say, first to speak with locals. Of course, all economy, tourism, it comes, but I don't think should bother you with all these issues. Of course comes more money. Restaurants are more restaurants, more hospitality, and why not?
Thank you so much, and we will talk in a bit together. I will now invite Lenka Pospisilova on the stage.
Okay, is it working? Yeah, it is. I'm almost afraid to talk now, but I hope it will be okay. There should be first the video, a 3-minute video, if it's possible to start.
Museum of John Amos Comenius in Uherský Brod is the largest museum in the world dedicated to the life and work of John Amos Comenius. As such, it connects general public with experts on Comenius, serves as the main documentation center with archives, library and vast collections.
In March 2022, the renovation of the museum was completed by the official opening of the new permanent exhibition on the stage of the world, John Amos Comenius and His Times. The renovation took several years and was aimed at the modernization of the exhibition halls, improvement of visitor facilities, technical equipment of the building and the overall change of the concept of the exhibition space.
However, the museum is also a prominent regional institution of Moravian Slovakia, which contributes to the preservation of local intangible heritage and raises awareness of the way of life of our ancestors and of the regional history.
Despite the renovation, the museum keeps its traditions alive. It hosts workshops of traditional crafts, community events, international conferences, movie festival and in its philosophy holds on to the tenet of Comenius, omnes, omnia, omnino.
Okay, thank you for the video. So we've seen our city. Our museum is located in a small regional town of nearly 17,000 people in a part of former city walls with a gate, and the former 14th century entrance gate to the town is now the entrance gate to our museum. We have 2 permanent exhibitions there. One is called On the Stage of the World, connected with this new school and the yacht school, which focus on John Amos Comenius and the history of pedagogy. And the second one is deals with the antiquities of our region and presents the changing history of our town. Then we have also temporary exhibitions which are changed, and of course we offer educational programs and we usually update the list so that it's up to date with these temporary exhibitions. However, even though our city is regional, we try to put it on the European and world map, as well as the Czech Republic, through the person of John Amos Comenius. He was a 17th century scholar, and the topic is kind of difficult, but we try to bring together the general public as well as the scholars from the field of Comeniology, but also from other fields of study connected with Comenius. And we try to kind of get them in a mutual dialogue. But of course, we must also have in mind that we are part of our region and we must try to keep the cultural traditions alive and try to enhance them. So that's like the second function of our museum. And of course, we try to establish our own traditions, which makes the third function. We try to do these annual events for local people. We abide by a single principle that everyone is welcome. We try to understand the different needs of visitors. We try to communicate with them a lot and try to show them that even though nowadays it's easily available to reach some things online, that they can come to our museum, in ideal case to do it repeatedly, of course. And these things we do bring their challenges. For example, one in the Czech society is that nowadays people don't often go to these cultural events. They don't often go to the museums. It's a contemporary trend in the Czech culture, so we try to do something about it to overcome it. For example, our program is rich and diversified. We also cooperate with the town, even though we are not established or funded by the town, but by the Czech government. Still, we try to cooperate with the local communities, and our entrance fees are very low because we don't want to put pressure on people's budget, and we, more than they would spend money on culture, we like them to spend time on culture and to visit our museum, to visit our events, to visit the events hosted by town in cooperation with our museum. Another challenge is that the topic is quite heavy because you deal with a 7th century scholar, philosopher, theologian, but this is also one of the things we try to overcome in our new exhibition, which presents the past but does it with help of modern approaches, modern tendencies in museology, and of course new technical devices. And the last thing is that we are kind of expected to cooperate with European institutions, with European organizations such as the Comenius Museum in Naarden through our museum. This museum in Naarden is funded by the Czech government, and we often do events, exhibitions, and projects together, which is another challenge because there's a distance and there are some additional expenses, but we've managed to deal with all these challenges, and we opened a new permanent exhibition there a few years ago. And actually with this permanent exhibition, we were in the EMYA 2022 last year, and now we are very grateful for the opportunity to be here again with our hometown, and we promise that we'll take a break next year.
Much, Lenka, for this presentation, and I think your museum is an example of being tightly connected to an international scholarly community, a very specialized one. You being a comeniologist could say a lot about this, but at the same time being a really local regional museum and with the aim of preserving local cultural heritage. Could you say maybe a couple of words more about what this also means in terms of challenges? How do you get these two together?
Yeah, of course, it's difficult because you have these two completely different fields and areas of research and activities you need to combine, and you need to be there for the scholars because we host international conferences, but also you need to make the 17th century topic of wars and religious disputes and plague and all these things connected with 17th century available and easily understandable to kids and to schools because they make up maybe half of our visitors. And then you have these local traditions which sadly in the Moravian Slovakia, which is our region, are dying out. So we try to, for example, transfer these traditions into a digital way of communication. And I can name, for example, these traditional stitches, which you use when you produce these folk costumes. And we've created online database and also videos and these tutorials, and we host workshops because there are about 10 women who nowadays can do this traditional craft. And with this project, we try to expand it more in the region.
Thank you so much, Lenka. I now ask Michael Schlegel to the stage, and I believe you will be getting company. Is that right? No? Okay, don't tell too much. I'm sorry.
Don't spoil everything.
Okay.
So. I tried with this microphone. Can you hear me like this? No, but I'm trying it this way. So welcome, everybody. I'm from the Deutsches Museum.
Mike. Hey, wait. I've got news. I have to take this one too. We are building a future museum.
Oh, that sounds so cool. But wait, future and museum? How does that come together?
Oh, maybe with virtual reality, we just build a completely digital museum.
But a museum shows real, authentic objects and exhibits. Like, looks like this. But, oh wait, I got an idea. We're showing objects from the future.
Objects from the future. Things that don't even exist yet. And on what topics, anyway?
Well, future topics. Yeah, you know, the big questions, like how we're going to live in the future. What will we eat? Where will we live? Are we going to conquer outer space, maybe? Well, we can take our cue from friend research.
Interesting. But the Deutsches Museum is a technology museum, isn't it?
Well, then we just show future technologies.
What?
Yeah, you know, prototypes, like this one. They give an idea of what could come.
And where are these supposed to come from? Definitely not from a collection.
Oh, no, we have to look from them from scratch. But we can ask universities, research facilities, and if we are lucky, also companies will contribute.
Okay, then we might have exhibits, but that's current research. That's still not the future.
Well, futurology says anyway that there's not the one future. They talk about futures, plural, a space full of possibilities, so to speak.
Oh, that reminds me of Captain Picard. The past is written, but the future is left for us to write.
Hey, that's it. Science fiction. We're just opposing today's technologies with future scenarios from literature and film.
Oh yeah, dreamy utopias, scary dystopias, and everything in between.
Like, see?
Yes. Can see the future? Yes, I see it. Yeah, maybe, yeah, the white and the right. Yeah, future.
See the tricorder over there?
Mm-hmm.
That's from Star Trek. Well, I would say it's done.
Check. Oh, what's that? It sounds like a killing machine.
Oh, it's just Marion with our robot-dog Pluto. Oh, isn't he cute?
Sit, pretty Pluto. Ah, good boy.
Good
Applause.
boy.
Oh, you guys are so theoretical and abstract, really. Herr von Bose?
Don't worry, he just wants to play. Pluto, come.
Ladies, that's what it's all about. Getting in touch with technologies, having your own experience with them, forming your own opinion about what it means when you have it in your life all time.
And thus join in the discussion about the future, because the future concerns us all.
That's why we do Denktouren and not the same old guided tours. With us, the visitors take the lead and decide on the basis of their interests what they want to find out about and what exchange their views on.
That's how we open up new perspectives without pointing fingers, enabling people to make future-proof decisions, to identify chances and uncertainties, to convey that the future can be shaped.
Exactly. Simply try out future scenarios at the station in a playful way and test how technology works. And that's for all of them, with all senses.
And that's where our educational programs pick up, like here in the lab.
Come on, Pluto, don't get too excited. I'm so sorry, but animals are not allowed in there.
In the lab, people discover the basics of hand-on experience.
Very much in the spirit of STEM.
For example, we introduce young people from secondary school to professions they might not have thought about.
In doing so, we connect pupils with regional companies to break down barriers on both sides.
And thus strengthens the local community of Nuremberg.
Great, but hold on. The future outcomes always becomes outdated.
Well, there's just one thing left to do. Let's start all over again and again.
And again. So, Pluto, don't worry, don't worry. No, we'll be keeping you. Good boy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maike Stiegel, Marian Greta, the director of the museum, and Melanie Saverin-Hutu. And the name of?
Louis Sabon, our robo-dog conductor here.
And Pluto, of course.
And Pluto, that's the name of the dog.
I think we will start after your presentation now. We will have a bit of a debate amongst ourselves, but I have one question directly to your museum and to your presentation. You're very much technology focused with regards to future questions of future in the plural sense. In one of your trailers, you're saying, and I found this really interesting, that you're the only technical ethics museum worldwide. Could you maybe say something about that?
Yeah, we actually just show technologies and like from universities or firms, and we showcase them like traditionally in the museum, but they don't have one story we want to tell. We want to have many, many, many stories about, because you have many perspectives on these technologies, and the most important part about the technologies is not to learn about how technology works, but to realize what consequences for us as a society it will have now and in the future. So we're actually doing these so-called Denktouren, and we want to have our guests, our visitors engaged in a discussion on how we want to use the technology, because the technology is most times is coming, but we have to look at where their barriers are, where we want their barriers to have, and we have to know about the technology to get them some kind of under control or use them in our ways. We want to use them because maybe they're not that bad as they sometimes seem.
And I think we talked about democracy in the beginning of the panel here. And I think to make a decision on what kind of technology we like to have in our daily life, it's a really, really, really big ability we have to learn, because it's all over. And I think over technical evolutions, we build our future. So yeah, we have to learn it, and we have to decide what we want to have in our life or what we don't want to have in our life.
Right. And as I learned, you work with different audiences, groups also in the program making, exhibition making. One, what I found really brilliant to hear was the so-called future communicators. Who are these?
Yeah, those are at the moment quite a lot of students. They are like active in our spaces, and they go into discussion with people. So we don't want to present like this is how the future will come, but to think about what might be a good idea and what I wouldn't have to, I don't like to get realized. And so the people, they go to the visitors and talk about the things that they experienced in our exhibitions, and yeah, really try to get in contact.
And everybody brings his own knowledge,
Yeah.
and in this discussion, it's great. You have totally new solutions for the future.
Thank you so much. Now, thank you, all the three of you.
Yep.
And one of
staying.
you will be now sitting, Melanie. Okay.
Twist.
Great. So, I suspect we don't have so much time because we've been also having some technical issues to solve. But I think one question to start is something that I believe you will all be able to relate is the museums that you run, they are geared towards local audiences. They are geared also to tell scientific stories in a most meaningful way and to involve people. And at the same time, there is a lot of people involved on the side of university, on the side of the scholarly networks. My question would be, in this new understanding of museums about science also being more platforms, being places of exchange, what can you say about those rather academic communities? How do they learn from your museums? Is there, if science communication in the classical sense has been thought of something one-directional, and you have an understanding of your museums as being more multi-directional, so to speak, how does this channel back, for example, into the university or into the scholarly communities of the archaeologists or the comeniologists, and of course, those concerned with futures professionally? Maybe, David, you want to start?
No, I don't want, but I will. I think in this direction, I think more or less it's clear, you see. Excuse me, it's very clear you are choosing object, you are making scientific research, and you are developing. Science communication is part of your job now. In our generation of scientists, we are not just pontificating, you should work on it. But I would give a little bit what I wanted to say, if you will allow me, the opportunities we can use for museums. A few days ago, we had an international conference in Tbilisi we organized with our colleagues from Victoria Albert Museum, also from German, Preußische Kulturbesitz. And the idea was how to collaborate during crisis through cultural heritage and natural heritage. And I think this is a very important point, because today we are sitting in this beautiful hall, we're talking on big questions, but in surrounding, not everything is okay. And my deepest sympathy to Ukrainian colleagues and to all Ukrainian people. And we discussed it's not just, to complaining what happened in Ukraine or what happened in Turkey or what happened in Syria, but also and how is mismanagement in heritage, but also in opportunities. How crisis is an opportunity. We should look on it. We are not in the same environment we were 5-10 years ago. And how museums can be important players in this, how we are knowledge centers, how to behave during the crisis. And science is one part of it. When I was using this example, one museum as a connection different fields. For example, when you have good story, you can use for inspiration wider artists, right? We have a program of artists in residence also. But also how to use as an international research center for new networks. Archaeology was very colonial science, you see. Big countries were having small centers in today is different. So this is another opportunity, but also to think that this combination and using academia as a background, we should behave. Because crisis and unfortunately it's a reality, but we don't know all, right? But now this is my point, how academia can be part of it, not just talking with each other, but part of solving big problems and creating antidotes. It's not just, today problems. And these museums, what we present, what I saw, they all have this chance to be this kind of future antidotes for big problems. So come back to your question. Academics need to be part of it today, not just be and thinking a little bit wider and not just on the commercial, technological, pragmatic way, at least in our field.
And you're speaking also from being in Georgia with under quite also tense political situation.
You see, in Georgia, never boring, So far, you have discussions about it. It's good. You speak about democracy is a process, And it's not everything can be black and white and systematic. Yes, we have discussion in our field in cultural heritage. Professionals, many people were fired. There are discussions with high management. But we have an opportunity to present and speak and to fight. And you see, this is a question, how our field and heritage study field from different directions can be not depending just on politics, but itself making politics and defense. And that's why I'm very optimistic, not how to say, it should be optimistic and look. And developing in society groups, you see, stakeholders, all the time we talk about it. But very pragmatic way, you can do it. And that's for me this. It's nothing new happened in Georgia, you see. It's a process.
Marianne, would you like to?
Yeah, I agree that these last approximately 5 years have shown the importance of science and the position of science has been changed very, very much, I think, in the society in general, but also in the museums in general, because I think we can't say that some museums are more like science museums, or use science as a basis. But in different museums, we translate it differently. So the question is how we use it and how we translate it. And in the university museums, I think we can see more and more this cooperation between museums and scientists, because scientists themselves see the importance of these memory institutions when we are thinking about not only about the crisis, but also in more general way that we are living in a memory period or in the memory age. So the memory in general, together with presence, is very, very important, maybe even more important than the future. So this combination of these different times is, I think, something why museums become more and more important, because in museums these times are gathered together. And this is the challenge of museums, how to translate it into these ideas, the changes of ideas into the wider audiences. And that's why the scientists also have this kind of importance in the museums, but not only talking about the science, but I want to emphasize, besides we are talking about the science, like you did in Science Museum very wonderfully, that but also how we think, because what's the meaning or the aim is to create better and more educated people. This is actually the main aim, and that's why this science of museology and science of education is extremely important.
Okay, thank you. Lenka, would you like to connect to this?
Yeah, I think I can connect to what you said very nicely, because we are museum but also research institution, and we serve as a center in which the scholars, for example, the Czech Academy of Sciences has a specialized department in communiology, so like they are the top authority. Then there are various universities which we cooperate with, but we try to connect them with the public and especially with the kids. So this is kind of a pyramid, but I would maybe rather call it an onion, because there are several layers and they all form this one whole in which you need to transfer these difficult topics into the understanding of the younger generation. And since Comenius was teacher of the nations, as he's called, you may have known him like that, we start with school. We offer these programs even for preschool children from 4 or 5 years old, so that they would understand why school is important, why it's good to get education. And we use this example of Comenius, who himself, when he was a child, couldn't attend school and was somehow remembering this period throughout his whole life, because really this was a big change for him when he then was able to attend grammar school, but these first years of his life were difficult, and we try to give him as an example and also try to force the kids to relate to his situation. We have these special tasks in which they aren't there to answer the questions, but they are sort of trying to be in his shoes, and they are trying to think about the catastrophes that occurred in his life, because he was forced to leave the Czech lands and go into exile. And he never then returned back to the Czech lands. So there's also something which is even now more important for us to explain to the kids. What can you do when you are in this situation, when you are constantly threatened by the war in the world, which we are now, and we try to not give them dates because they learn that in school, but really try to do it differently.
Thank you so much. Melanie, last but not least.
Okay, I think it's really important to talk about science, because science defines our world, and we are specializing on technology, and that means technology defines our world, defines our society. Everywhere we are, there's technology, working, not working, being used every time I look around, everybody's using cell phone, hasn't been used for many years before. So it's changing our world, and we have to give the young people an idea of this is also science, because there are things that just here because it's scientific research, and we have to decode what's behind it, and that we can't just. So I think it's some kind of social science, so everybody can use social science, everybody can think about their future, and it's a way of enabling, empowering the youth to think about future, because they're experts too in which future they want. So telling them what is coming in science and demystifying science on the same page is a very important issue where we all should be really interested to be not scared about talking of robotics, because everybody can do robotics if they know that it's only machine and it's a little bit of code. And you can learn it, you can do it. It's nothing that comes over you and just changes your life. You can change it by yourself. And that's why they have to understand that science is something they can do, they can understand, and where they can participate. And this is pretty much our aim, where we want to empower the youth to be part of their future and not let technology change everything and feel like they're not able to change anything. I think that's the most important part for us at this point.
Thank you so much. I think we are almost up with the time, but I would like, if I'm allowed, I would, no? No? Okay, I'm having a definite, okay. Well, there would be more questions from my side to ask, and I'm sure there will be more questions from the audience at some point. Here you can talk to these 4 representatives of the museum, whom I'm thanking very much for being on this first panel. And I wish us all a good break. Thank you to all 4 of you. Thank you.